Everyone, welcome back to another Lightroom session. This is Jackie Schletter. We're going to be working on a Reddish Egret today that I posted recently, and this is going to be pretty simple to make some quick adjustments and add some artfulness to this image. Now, one of the things with cropping here is I'm going to want to include this water element. These were just reflections from mangroves or something there, and I definitely want that to be part of the image. Now, in a perfect world, I would have tried to get very low, like this is one where maybe I would have laid on the ground to see if I couldn't get a better perspective where all of this was actually behind the bird. But this is what we have, and that's what we're going to work with. So one of the things I would want to see here is background first. Can I get that top section to look the way that I want it to look? First of all, you can see just by bringing down white, I can tell this is going to be a really nice backdrop. Just that slider brought in these beautiful vanilla tones. This was first light of dawn, and we're going to definitely try to exploit that. Now we could bring it, you could really get crazy, and we're probably a little too oversaturated there, but I always recommend, run the gamut on these sliders so you can start to see what's possible, and then you can refine it according to your eye. And again, I'm only looking at the backdrop. I know the bird is included here, but I've seen enough to know that this image would definitely, there's merit in working on this one. And here I'm going to bring up some shadows so I can see that I can lighten what's happening back here. And maybe it can bring some of that back with dehaze, get rid of some of it. I'm definitely going to want that backdrop to be, I think, smooth. So already I'm kind of seeing that I like that. And then maybe a little more blue. And again, we're dealing with the entire background right now. So I'm seeing tones that I like. So I'm going to stop with this particular part of the edit where I'm pleased with the entire background color, and it's somewhere in here. It's sort of a vanilla color here. And I'm going to leave that there. And then to get rid of this bottom portion, I'm going to just hit M. That will bring in a linear gradient, and I'm going to slide this up, and we're just going to work on the bottom half, getting rid of that bottom portion, and see what we can do here. And we can decide to go a little lighter. And here let's subtract subject and see if we can get our bird out of there. All right. So now I can decide, do I want a big difference between the top and the bottom? Do I want to go from one color scheme into another? I really like this color on the bird, so I think I'm going to, in this rendition, maybe we'll throw a little more of a rose tone on top of that. And then I'm going to hit return and get out of that mask, and I'm going to hit M again and bring down. I may actually make it a little lopsided so it's not quite perfectly across the back. But what I want to see here is what can we do with texture, because I want, as much as I want that faded out, I do want to see that the water had some movement here. So I may try to do that by bringing down some of these highlights. I think that might be the nicest way. And now these reflections are just falling further into the image. And then I may just bring this down And then we're going to go ahead and subtract our subject so that all we're dealing with now is the backdrop. All right, good. And now I'm going to look at some color choices here. Just a little more on the blue-green side, but at the same time, I really don't like how dark that is. So I'm going to use shadows and some whites to play with those tones, and even bring up your blacks. It's just helping to smooth that out, but let us know that there was something there in the backdrop. All right. Now, being a little more blue. And then I might pop down here because now I don't like the way those colors are coming together. So keep working your color tones. See, this is too peachy now. So oftentimes I start in one place and end up in somewhere else completely. And you may just want no color down there at all, or maybe a little bit of blue, so that it blends down into this. Now, while I'm looking at this too, I'm going to hit K. I'm going to actually see what happens when we give this reflection a bit of a smear, and see if we, it's kind of a weird reflection. Now, this was right out of the camera, but you can see part of the bird's face didn't quite make it. And I may, so there's a hint and a suggestion of that reflection, but since it's not a picture perfect reflection as shot, then I may just play with it, not to get rid of it, but just to get rid of some of those flaws, so to speak. Here's some shadows. So we've still got a reflection, but now, one thing you have to do here is I was messy with that mask, so be careful, because see how you can see where your mask was? So again, I'm not perfectly particular in these videos to save time, but just so you know, you can do something like that as well to work on your mask. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let's try to grab this bird, and I think I'm just going to do that with an object tool. And I'm gonna see how the little plus right there, I'm just gonna keep that on the bird, and that's a pretty good grab. And then we need to work on what we want the bird to look like. So again, sometimes I'll just throw these sliders. Do I want this to be painterly? Do I want it to be crisp and clear? And I think with this bird, the feathers are really pretty. There's a lot of detail there. I'm going to play on the clarity side of this one. Maybe just add a little bit of saturation. I don't like to go far outside of the natural tone. So while we might get artful, I am going to try to stay as true to the colors of the bird as they were in nature. And this certainly is within that realm for this reddish egret. So here I may put just a little bit of warmth. The sun was coming up. I think that's fair, and we're actually picking up, these are very true tones. And then, I don't know, sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of black. And that's it. I did not do a whole lot to this bird. Now, sometimes I think about the way the light really was, and it was coming from over here. And this wing, this part of the wing is, I think it could have a little more shadow. So sometimes I'll just bring in a little bit. I mean, see, here we are at neutral, and I'm just ticking down there 11 points, so to speak. So there's ways to when they don't come through the way we want them as shot, there's ways to very subtly adjust the image, and that's one of them. So sometimes I'll just do a little bit to the shadows, and it just gives us again a little idea that the light was on top and it would naturally be darker under that wing. And then I hit K again. And I think I'm just going to play a little bit in this section because there's some pretty feather detail. And then maybe just bring in, now you can see clarity is adding some contrast, which I actually like. Again, we're adding in some depth now. So here you can see clarity washed out, and here we're bringing clarity in. So look at the difference. We've actually added shadow and depth into those feathers. And maybe a little dehaze, a little texture, and then I might counteract that with just, again, see how you like it, a little bit of white. And here's some highlights. So this is all your eye. Whatever you want to do here, you could certainly even play a little bit with this pretty reddish part. And maybe saturate that a little bit. That the reddish is really quite reddish on these birds, so you're just bringing back to the image some of the natural tones that can be either washed out in light or shadowed in light depending on how harsh or low or high the sun was in the sky. So we're already a far cry from where we were. So my favorite thing here, y'all, snapshot, and here's where we were. So there's the original, and just that little bit of work we did, this is where we are. So again, 100% your eye, whatever appeals to you. So play with your images, have fun, and reach out if you ever have questions or I can help you with something. Have a great day.